The Vikings fall to 1-1. Hello, everybody. Terry Bennett here on the Lago Vista Football Show, right here on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media, brought to you by the Lago Vista Athletic Booster Club. As the Vikings fall to a very athletic and tough Waco Conley team, 44-26. Just a rough first half. Coach will talk about it, but field position, a couple mistakes, a couple big plays by the Cadets. And we talked about last week how athletic this Cadet team was. And if you gave them an inch, man, they can take that mile. And that's exactly what happened in this game. As the Vikings just in that first half struggled with field position, a lot of it. Some of it self-inflicted, of course. But also you had a really good punt by their punter that rolled down inside the 5. You had a couple of miscues on blocking in the back and stuff on some other returns. And, you blink and you're down 21-0 before you've even had a chance to establish any kind of offensive flow. It's really tough to get out of that hole. Now, I like the way they played in that second half, and they didn't give up. And I know that's just a moral victory. But, no, going forward, because, you're going to be in situations like that down the road where you're behind, and it's a game that's district or in the playoffs, and you've got to get that win. You want to know that, hey, we've done this before. We've not given up. We keep playing. And good things will happen. As always, we're going to be talking to the head coach, Coach Creighton Phillips, about that game. We'll also talk, of course, about the matchup with Taylor this week, a very physical team. It'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. Taylor's physical. They're young, but they definitely have some size and some solid athleticism. So it'll be an interesting game for Lago Vista as they rebound. Speaking of that game, now it's homecoming, so you're probably going to be going to the game if you're in Lago Vista. But if you can't, or if you live outside of Lago Vista, maybe you live up here in Dallas-Fort Worth where I live, well, then you can watch the game online at fan.huddle.com. All you have to do is search for Lago Vista Vikings. You really can just type in Lago and it drops down, and you'll be able to find the feed. Now, it's $8 per single broadcast. It's $15 for a month, and it's $75 for the year. So if you're a fan of not only the football, but you want to watch some volleyball and basketball and baseball and softball, along with, of course, football, I would either go monthly or even the yearly. I think that's the best value. If you're a fan of one team, and you watch and you want to be able to follow all of the Viking sports, that's the best way. But, hey, if it's just 1 week and you're normally at the game and for some reason you're out of town, well, then the $8 one for a single broadcast is an option as well. If you have any questions, you can just simply email Eric Holt, eholt at lagovistaisd.net. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, it is the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips, right here on the Lago Vista Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media. Do you have a kid that plays sports? Are you yourself a weekend warrior? Then I'm going to tell you something. Check out NeuroGuardPlus.com. That's NEURO GuardPlus.com. It's a mouthpiece that can not only help with concussions, but can dramatically affect the way you perform. And the mission of NeuroGuard is to, of course, reduce the risk of suffering a concussion when participating in any contact sport, military, anything that you're doing physical that you could take a blow to the head. You might want to put in a NeuroGuard mouth guard. And as I said, it not only helps eliminate concussions, it helps you perform better by simply aligning your jaw properly. And that sounds like such a simple thing, but it is so important because it allows oxygen to get to your brain. And when you get oxygen to the brain, you don't have that fog of sports or that fog of war where you get confused. And if you've ever played football, that's a sport where that can happen. Especially, man, you're in there in the trenches and you take a shot to the side and all of a sudden things are spinning. This mouth guard will help you keep focus by, again, simply keeping oxygen going to your brain 100%. Again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com. And if you play sports, if you have a kid that plays sport, if you do something physical, one of the things that Dr. Hutchinson, the creator of this, was talking about was some people will use it when they're doing yard work and when they're mowing and things like that, where they're being physically active because they know it helps align their jaw and it keeps oxygen going to the brain, which also helps your lungs, by the way, when you can have full breath every time as you're performing. So again, check them out, NeuroGuardPlus.com.
Hi, I'm Josh Bell with the Miami Marlins. I wear NeuroGuard to help with strength and coordination when I'm in the weight room and help with balance when I'm on the baseball.
Terry Bennett back here on the Lago Vista Football Show. Now joined by the head coach of the Vikings, Coach Creighton Phillips. And, Coach, tough loss last week against Connolly, 44-26. So you kind of called what, if things go wrong, what could happen last week. You called it, and as you said, things went wrong.
Yeah. I think I don't know that you could script a worse start to a game for us as a team, to come out and, we hold them first series, defense holds, and then they punt us down to the one, and we 3 and out, and they get a score, and we fumble the return, they get a score. We end up down 20-0 real quick in the first and hadn't really had anything positive offensively to go on. The kids, to give them credit, they continued to play, and we figured it out, and we put together a drive in the second quarter and just march it all the way down the field, long drive, probably 80-yard drive, and kick off to them, and they returned that for a touchdown. And so, you start to get a little spark of hope in there, and they tried to stamp it out pretty quick. But, I'd say we had, probably 90% good, but the 10% that was bad was real bad.
When you go in at halftime after a half like that, and y'all made mistakes and things y'all can fix, but as you said, some of it's just the way of the game, the field position, and who you're playing. Well, what kind of message do you tell the kids at a half when it's a game like that?
Well, I think you remind them of all the things that they've done right and encourage more of that, right? Yes, there's things we need to fix. There were some things we needed to clarify. They came out in a different defense. And so to make those adjustments with the kids' mind of, this is what we practice, but now this is it. We don't always have a lot of in-game opportunity to talk to them. And, we were experiencing some technical difficulties with headsets and replays and all that wasn't working exactly right. So information wasn't flowing as quick as it normally does. And so we had time to kind of settle down at halftime, show the kids what they were up against, and remind them of, this has worked and this worked and this worked, and we just need more of this and less of the mistakes that we're making, and we'll be okay. And I thought the kids came out, and played well in the second half.
Well, offensively, what do you think y'all did well that you can build off of going into the rest of the season?
Well, I thought our RPO game at time was really pretty good. The receivers understanding, spacing, quarterback, being able to quick release, balls on the run, that kind of stuff. The offensive line, I thought, handled them really pretty well, as athletic as they were. I felt like they did a pretty good job of, creating gaps where we could. And when we made the right reads and had the right guy, had the ball in the right man's hands, I thought we did some good things.
As a coach and as a person, I know we all have that, win or lose. You have this, some programs, the 24-hour rule or the 2-day rule. But for you personally, do you process the losses different than the wins?
Yeah, I think it's commonplace to be a lot more introspective after a loss. When you win, you think things are going good and let's just keep doing what we're doing because it's working.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to look inward when you make a mistake, and you're also a lot more willing to make the changes that maybe you were reluctant to change, because of personnel or, a kid that's he's been trying hard, so we're giving him this chance, and maybe it's time to make some, personnel changes here or there, scheme changes here or there. You see that something that you thought was going to be good is not, and so you stop banging your head against that wall, and, it helps. A loss, I think, sometimes helps you to make decisions that makes your team better. And so an early season loss is not the worst thing in the world. I certainly didn't walk off the field feeling any worse about my team than I did before the game started. I think we know who our kids are, and, we're going to continue to prepare them to win. And they came to practice this week, with the right heart and the right mindset of let's go out there and get the win this next week.
I was just going to ask, are you a coach that practices are different when you win? Are they more physical after a loss, or does it just kind of depend on the game?
No, I think we have to stay pretty steady. I say that we did make a little bit of a practice change, but it really didn't have anything to do with success or lack of success on the previous Friday night. But I think some consistency with the kids and getting them in a spot where they feel comfortable each day at practice. We're not going to beat them up because they didn't win a ball game. We're not too deep at every position and can afford any of that. We really worked on as much mental stuff as anything else because we felt like that was where we were lacking. It wasn't that we were physically unable to play with those guys last week. It was really more the mental game of, just a blown assignment or not understanding the importance of, leverage in space and some things like that, a team as athletic as Connolly, they're just going to take advantage of that. And we knew that going in, and we were hoping we were going to be in the right spot. And most of the time we were, but, when you're not, they take advantage.
You go to 1-1 this week. You're taking on the Ducks of Taylor. They're a very young team. As we were talking before we started recording, they have some size. When you look at the film, what are your thoughts on the Ducks?
Very aggressive. Defensively, they're showing some 10-1, man coverage stuff where they're really trying to force the issue right now. And use their speed on the back end to cover for that. So you're going to have to commit the ball wherever you're going with it pretty quick, and it allows those guys to run. But it also gives up some plays sometimes. I think when you sell out to really force the issue, if you miss big. And so I think there's opportunities for some big plays in the game. I do think we have a pretty good scheme that the kids are comfortable with this week. Certainly had some great film sessions and, chalk talk, stuff like that, where the kids felt comfortable and they're understanding the game better. That happens as the season goes along. Your players' IQ gets better and better. So felt like it was a good week of preparation. We feel like we match up, pretty good. It's going to be a challenge. They're a bigger school than us. They got some good sized kids. They got some very athletic kids. So we're just going to look to execute at a higher level this week.
Well, and when you talk about you're facing a team they're so aggressive defensively, the famed Salina 10-1, the single high safety man up, everybody thinks the big plays are in the passing game, but you can get those same big plays in the running game because if you get to that second level, there's nobody there.
Yeah, it's quite the challenge to get to the second level, but if you do have an opportunity, you have some space built in behind that, just as the nature of what they're doing. And they do a good job of mixing it up. They'll run the same, box technique as far as run stop or run blitz, and then they'll run some zone on the back end to try to, mitigate big plays and things like that too. So, to be aware of what they're trying to do each play and try to take advantage of that is our goal this week offensively.
And you talked about last week how you felt your kids responded well when things went bad. When you're playing a defense like this, as you said earlier, you're going to have some bad plays, and you got to keep that attitude of, hey, we might have lost that drive, but this is going to set the table for later on in the game.
Right. That's, you can't let one play affect your next play. They're going to beat you from time to time. That's the nature of the game. And so them beating you on one play, don't give them the next play too. All right. Don't make it a 2-for-1. Don't give them the next one free. So we talk about that a lot of, resiliency, short memory. Things happen as part of the deal. And so don't freak out. Don't lose your mind when things aren't going well. Just play the next play and do the best you can each opportunity you have. And it's real easy to say. It's a little harder to do because you're emotionally tied to what's going on, and when negative things happen, it's tough, to do that. But that's what we ask kids to do, and that's what we're training them to be the best version of themselves. And I think that is a big part of growing up as a man and as a football player is to be able to eat those losses and eat those negative things and move on and not let it affect the next thing that's happening.
Offensively, what does Taylor do that could give you some problems?
They get the ball in space. They like to throw it a lot. And so, it's just by nature, there's going to be some big plays built in there. And so I think if we are allowed, if we're able to get pressure, I think we're going to have success. And so if we let big quarterbacks stand around and pick us apart with time and being comfortable, we could have some trouble. On the back end, I think anybody that gives a quarterback too much time, is certainly setting himself up for failure. But So we're gonna try to get to them best we can, and you know, just communicate on the back end. As long as we do our job, I feel like we're gonna be okay.
You know, you talked about with Waco when y'all came out and started, they kind of did something a little bit differently defensively than y'all were expecting, or at least y'all had seen on film. Are y'all a defense that does that? Because so many defenses now literally go from 4-man front to 3-man front to 5-man front, depending on the style of offense they're playing. Do y'all do that kind of stuff, or are y'all set in your schemes?
Well, our scheme that's kind of built into what we do. Like day one install, you know, we have a 4-man front and a 3-man front, and then pressures out of each. So to be able to give offenses different looks, I think that's smart. You know, defensively, you know, there's different schools of thought, but ultimately, no matter what you're doing, the kids have to be comfortable with it. And so if you're going to run the same thing over and over again, you just got to be real good at it, and you should be if you do the same thing the whole time. If you're moving kids around and showing some different stuff, you got to make sure that your kids are comfortable doing it, because I think you can outcoach yourself a little bit too, trying to have the very best defense for every formation or the very best defense for every play, and then changing it each week. You know, because kids are kids. They're not professional football players. This isn't the only thing on their mind all day. They've got 7 hours of school to go on top of your practices and girlfriends and homecoming this week, and what they're going to eat for dinner. They got a lot of stuff on their mind that's not football. So I think you have to make them comfortable in whatever it is you do.
Here at L4 Media, we talk high school football, 4A, 3A, and 2A in Texas. We talk East Texas sports. We talk NFL, guy talk, movie and booze. We also talk wrestling and so much more. And you can see it all on our YouTube channel at L4 Media Company. Like and subscribe. Thanks to Coach Phillips for joining us, as he does each and every week here on the Lago Vista Football Show. Tough loss, but I think it's a loss that you glean a lot of information for the coaches, from the team, and for the team, a lot of learning lessons, things like, hey, this is what happens when you do have a block in the back, and how quickly that one negative can just completely flip a drive, flip a possession, flip a scoring chance, or giving up a scoring chance. And that's the kind of stuff that's what these non-district games are for. And that's why you'd rather, maybe take a loss but play and know something about your team, instead of playing a cupcake and winning by a lot and not really getting anything about your team. I'd rather have a dirty record with a deep playoff run than a pretty record with first round exit. So on to the next one. It's homecoming, so everybody be safe if you're going out to the game Friday. Enjoy the homecoming. Enjoy the football. Again, if you can't make it, check out fan.huddle.com. Search Lago Vista Vikings and find the broadcast. $8 for a single, $15 for a monthly, and $75 for a yearly. If you have any questions, thoughts, or comments for Coach, just email them to me, Terry at s2ssport.com. All right, that's going to do it for this week. We'll meet back here next week on the Lago Vista Football Show on S2S Sports, part of L4 Media.